Hey guys, thank you for watching my video. This is the third video for Veeam Certified Engineer VMC Training Coursing Exam, Part 3. In the second part, we did set up a backup job, and in this video, we're gonna test it, see if it's successful or not. So I'm gonna go back to backup jobs right here. Yeah, so this was the job, right? So you if you see a status says stopped and last um, what did it say? Last result was success means the backup was successful. So our first backup is successful. Um, so if you click here, you highlight the job and you can actually see it. Look at the job. It says change block tracking is enabled. Processing this job, the server name CTI-SF-01. It says 3 minutes, blah blah blah, and then um, the VMs were queued for processing. Load source was 64%, proxy 38%, network 58%, and target was 27%. So primary bottleneck source. So this thing gives you actually a lot of information right here. And also you can see duration was 3 minutes, processing was 274 megabit per second. Again, it says bottleneck source, process, the data, read data, transfer rate, and you can see success. There is no warning and there is no errors. Hey, here is the key things to remember. If your job ends with the warning, if your job is failed, then it will try 3 times and there's going to be a 10 minutes interval between each try. But if your job is ended with warning, there is no retry. This is um, a very important point to remember from exam perspective. Um, so and actually so this was the job was done, and also while we here see you can if your job is configured for example, and you can always start a job, you can do an active full job. If you do a start job, it's kind of quick thingy to do it, you can disable job, you can clone it, you can delete it, you can check the statistics right here. Um, and you can click the details. So this is basically the same thing we were looking at it right here, but for job individual job, you can click on it and you can see all these settings. The bottom line is the more you do hands-on, it's much better. Um, let's see on let's say you did the backup and you need to retrieve something from here, so you can do a restore, and from the store you highlight the job and you click on restore, and this restore wizard will pop up. And here's the deal. These options you see right here, restore from backup or restore from replica. We haven't talked about replica yet, but we will talk about it later in this video or the other videos. These are again extremely important points to remember, because in exam, or especially in exam, because in real life nobody gonna quiz you on this thing yet. Hey, what are the options here when you're trying to restore it? But in the excuse me, in the exam, it's going to ask you what are the options. They're going to give you one fake option, for example. Hey, when you're trying to restore the file in a restore wizard, which option to choose, for example. So for example, this option is a instant VM recovery. And I was talking about if your production machine crashes and if your um, repository support vPower, then you can use this option. You can restore entire VM. You can do a restore virtual disk. You can do a VM file like VMDK file or VMX file. So if you're good with VMware and you're familiar with VMware, you will know VMDK is the main file. And a VMX is, if I'm not mistaken, is the one which has the configuration settings. So you can restore either. Guest files, you can in Windows you can restore guest files. The other OS you can restore guest file. Application item you can restore to Microsoft Azure. This is actually the cloud. So you have to remember these options. If not, just for the exam, not for the real life. Real life, you will know, like I said. And for a restore from replica, just like a backup, you can create a replica of your virtual machine. So you can do a failover to replica. For example, if you have a virtual machine, I know we haven't talked about replica, but I just want to give you the overall. If you have a replica running, then you can, and your production machine crashes, you can failover to replica. And then you have a planned failover, and this is going to be questions like, why do you have a planned failover? So planned failover is if you are patching your machines, you can do a planned failover. When patching is done, you can move back to your production machine, and whatever changes are done during the planned failover, they can can be taken care of it. So fail back to production, this is another option. Guest file Microsoft Windows, guest file OS, and applications item. When you're talking about application item, what it is, these application item, we're talking about a if you have a SQL server you want to restore, or you have any other application you want to restore, or you have a particular item. We're going to talk about, there are like the Veeam, the explorers. They can restore not the item level. For example, if you want to restore a Exchange mailbox, you can use the Veeam Explorer for Exchange. You can use the Veeam Explorer for SQL Server. You can Veeam Explorer from Oracle. You can use the Veeam Explorer for SharePoint. So it gives you a lot of different options. And I mentioned in my previous video, we only scratched the surface, actually, not tip of the iceberg. So it just is maybe like 1.2% what Veeam does it. So, but we're gonna get there. So basically, when we are trying to running a restore wizard, we click on the machine, the job. You can click on restore, and here we can do a Windows guest file, for example. If you want to restore a particular file, you click OK, and what it's going to do is the file level is going to give you the option. Right now, we only have one machine, 1 point, so we're going to click OK next, and this thing was done like not long ago. You click next, and what's going to happen is it's going to actually mount that point for you. See, so we selected the restore, we selected the mount point, and now here you go. Right here, you can use the the thing I was talking about, like if you have a application item, if you want to recover, for example, so you can use the Microsoft Active Directory. If this is not the Active Directory domain, if it were Active Directory domain, I would have used this one to restore, a user account. So you have Exchange, you have a SharePoint, your SQL Server, you have Oracle. So these are 5 options in Veeam 9.5 as of December 8, 2016. Because I'm not sure when you're going to be watching this video. If you're watching this video like 6 months down the road, option might change. So, and these are very important options to remember. They're going to quiz you on this one, and we're going to talk about it later. So let's say if I wanted to restore a oh come on, I want. So let's say I just double clicked on it. Let's say I want to restore this file. So if I right click on it, restore, you have a option to overwrite wherever we backed up from, or we can keep the original file and we can restore this thing. So I say, hey, go ahead, override it. So what it's doing it is actually connecting to the original VM and is restoring this thing. You can see it actually, the show details. So when you see this red X, you're gonna say, hey, what happened? Nothing happened because there's no error, zero errors. It was successful, and it took so long. It cannot even measure it. And you can actually see it right here. File level restore started using backup server as a mount server. So that's where the mount server comes in. So if you have a separate mount server, it's going to mount that point to that server before restoring it. So because if you're restoring or the other backup is running while you're restoring a file, so the performance will affect. So that's why in a larger organization you want to have a not a larger organization, depending upon how large the backup infrastructure is. A large organization might have one server, so I might be wrong. But if you have a large backup, infrastructure, you're backing up a lot of devices. In that case, you can create a mount server separately. So this is interactive mode, mounting the store point, starting the store, and using this server as a mount server. And the batch mode folder, there were no folder. Files to restore 1 is only 102 bytes. The restoring to C temp and a store file folder, blah blah blah, and the store completed. So as you can see this thing, how easy it is. And the thing is, it's like you set up once and you forget. I mean, it's that simple actually. So this is your backup job. So the thing is, this was the first job, right? And it took a little longer to do it, not that longer, probably 3 minutes and 41 seconds. 3 minutes and 41 seconds. Well, I don't know why I'm saying cents. So if I click on start and see how fast it's gonna go. And actually you can see it right here, the job progress. It says all VMs because one job can contain multiple VMs. So I think it's taking the time to prepare the whole backup thing. The actual backup is going to be done pretty fast. So you can see here that this was the first backup job, and then this is the FLR, is the file level recovery on this server, and this is a second job we started. So what happened actually when we set a backup backup this machine actually on the back end. I see it's just 99% completed. What happened is when say, hey, back up the job, since it's running on VMware, it went and it told the VM tools, hey, go take a snapshot. And so that's where it took that time, which is pretty impressive. Look, it's like a 1 minute and 51 seconds and 99% completed. And I mean, if you have a small business where you're backing up like 5-10 servers, then you're done basically. You know how to install it, you know how to run it, you know how to configure it. If it's a small shop, it's that simple actually. Okay, so this one is done. It took 2 minutes and 16 seconds to back up a server How big that the server, the hard drive is? Let me see. It's the CTI SFO1, and SFO1 is 100 gig. It's not used all of it, but it's also a a 10 provision, but still, it's pretty fast. Okay, so let's go to home right here. So I'm gonna go through a little bit on this one, and then we're gonna go see the other feature, and then we're gonna start a in orderly fashion, going through with um, all the features in detail. Um, so we know about a backup and replication. What options do we have? We can run a backup job. We can do a replication job. We can do a backup copy, VM copy. You know, a VM copy is the same thing. Basically, if you do a VM copy, it's going to ask you a first VM copy job. I'm not going to go all the way, but I'm going to show you something right here. It says copy every every day, or every minute, every hour. So if you have a critical machine, um, but you can copy the backup job somewhere if you want to. So let's see here, and you can select the machine. See, the thing is, we're doing a copy job actually. We're not backing up from the original machine. So right here is gonna say, hey, either we can copy from the infrastructure, basically we can do from the backup or from the job. Again, this thing is pretty important to remember, like, hey, the backup copy job can be run from the infrastructure, from the backups, and from the job. So if I click on infrastructure, for example, it's going to ask you, hey, which machine you want to copy to, right? So the machine we were using is a CTI, this one. That's the one we were backing up, right? So actually it's only machine is not that big. It's only like 9 gigabit. So it's the same thing here. The one we were setting up the backup job. So the backup copy job. So in backup copy job is the a backup repository is the like a default one, a restore point to keep 7, for example. So remember when we were doing a copy job, sorry, the backup job, it was 14 days to remember, and you can, so these are the default options. You can do a keep the following restore point as a full backup for archival purposes. So you can do a uh, the 4 restore point on Sunday, and if you want to have it, monthly or quarterly or yearly, it's called like a, I don't know, something like a grandfather, father, son kind of thing. If you say, hey, I want to keep one you know backup job for 1 year. This one, let's say you're gonna say, hey, I want to keep it for 6 months, and this one I want to keep it for 3 months. If you want to, you can do it and read the entire restore point from source backup instead of synthesizing it from the increment. So if you click this option, what this option is saying, when you are creating the um, what you call this scheme, don't just rely on the restore points, and read it from the source, compare it from the source instead of just synthesizing it from the increment. So I'm gonna uncheck it for a second. So click here. It's the same thing. The full backup restore point Sunday. Do a weekly backup, monthly backup on first Sunday, and a day of the week, a quarterly backup, and a yearly backup. So basically, what are they saying? Every every first Sunday of the month, of the quarter, of the year. So this thing is pretty important to remember. When we're doing um, uh, the copy job, and in copy job, by default, if we choose that option by default, it is Sunday. This one is Sunday. Um, See, this it didn't say the first Sunday because in week there's only one Sunday, and the monthly job is the first Sunday, is the first Sunday, is the first Sunday. So this is uh, the copy job we're talking about. So I'm going to actually remove this thing for a second because this is just for. So remember this thing, weekly backup is 4. That's by default. And the rest of them are 0, 0, 0. So basically we're keeping a copy backup job, I'm sorry, the default backup, um, default backup copy job for 1 month or 4 week, 28 days. And that is very important to know. And right here, now, if you want to do a copy job, actually, when you do a copy job, you can do a copy job from a location A to B. So right here, you can do the direct. So VM data will be sent directly from source to target repository. This mode is recommended for copying backup jobs on site and off site over a fast connection. So when we're doing a copy job, it's not necessarily you're going to be copying it locally. Yeah, you can copy it locally if you want to, but but the point is the copy job supposed to copy it to offsite basically. Or you have a separate location if you remember the three rule, the 3-to-1 rule, the 3 copies. So this could be the backup could be the first copy, and this could be the second copy basically. And or you can do it through built-in WAN accelerators. So I know we didn't talk about WAN accelerators, but we will talk about it later. So VM data will be sent to target repository through WAN accelerator that must be deployed in both source and target site. This mode provides for significant bandwidth saving. And guys, this option again is pretty pretty important. The question might come when you're doing a copy job to offsite location, for example, where will you deploy WAN accelerator? So right here, the answer is if you want to improve the significant bandwidth, you should do it on a source and target sites on both. You know. So this is the source WAN accelerator. This is the target. We don't have it right now, and this is the target accelerator. And are we going to choose this direct one, for example? Next. And here, same thing. When you're doing a copy job, like by default, it's selected anytime. Hey, do this job anytime. We don't care. But on a test environment is good. But same, just like we were configuring it, the backup, you can select it from 4 a.m. to 5 p.m. or if you want to change it to 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. basically, and you say disable it. So between this time, the copy job will not work, and you can click on save. I'm not going to save it for now. I'm just going to cancel it because we will go through on this thing again. So let me go back here. Again, this is one of the important things when you do a copy job. Copy job is different than backup. What backup does it takes the backup and it copies it to your repository. And a backup copy job, what it does, it actually it can copy the one we chose right now. We chose it to copy from the source basically, and then we're gonna go for next option. So it's gonna copy from point A to point B, or point A, point B could be next to point A, or it could be like an offsite, and you might or might not need van accelerator. What are the van accelerator? Basically, van accelerators are they speed up the process. Basically, they have their own proprietary software to speed up the data on a van link. So I'm going to cancel this thing for a second, and I'm going to go back here under. Let's go back to our home. Do the copy job, and the next copy job is a sorry, copy. Apologize. Let's do. Um, Backup copy job. I thought we were gonna do the backup copy job. Okay, okay, let's try again. We go to copy job, and under copy job, we're gonna say add. So when we say add, the first time we did the infrastructure. So second time we can do a from backup. So from backup, this is the backup job we configured originally. So we can say, hey, whenever the backup is done, and then use the the same for the copy job. So again, it's the same thing. We can um, um, we can choose the repository. Normally, we only have one, so we don't have much choice. I mean, any backup repository we can select. If we have the one with a different location, we can choose that one too. So right now, choose whatever is available. And a same thing, you can if you're running multiple jobs and you're going to do a copy the backup copy jobs, you can select the the second job if that's what you wanted to do it. Same thing, you click on it and all the settings are same. So same thing, if I go I'm going to remove this thing for a second, and if you click on add, and from the um, so we did from the infrastructure, we did from the backup, we can do from the job. So actually, I'm sorry, the previous job was from the backup. That was not, let me go back there. Maybe I misspoken. So from the backup. So this thing was from the backup, actually, not, I misspoke. I said this thing was from the backup jobs. This is coming from the repository, actually. Um, and this one is from the job, actually, the first backup job, the one we just configured. So um, is if we have multiple jobs, we can sorry. If we have multiple jobs, we can select another job or as many jobs as we want. And this is the source is, hey, right now any backup repository because we have only one. So here's a choose what backup repository just this job should obtain VM data from. We recommend you exclude the offsite backup repository from the selection. So right now it's selected as any backup repository, but if you have a multiple repository and the offsite repository, in that case we're going to exclude the offsite backup repository because we don't want it to pick up the repository from the offsite and copy to the offsite. So that actually doesn't serve any purpose. So we're not using this option actually right now to exclude any option if you want to. Um, this we already talked about this source, and then if you have multiple jobs, you can do up and down. You can set the priority which one should go first and second. This is your target actually. First, for the first one is the picking up from the job. What job to copy from. And then we're talking about the target, where it's going to go to. Since we have only one repository, is showing up the only one. Here's the same option we went through, when we were setting up to copy from infrastructure, and the same thing, directional infrastructure. So the bottom line is, when you do a copy job, you have three options. You can select it from infrastructure, you can select it from backups, or you can select from jobs. And once you select either one of these three options, or you can add actually multiple options. I'm pretty sure you can add one from one machine from where is that? The one we were working on, CTI SFR1, and then you can add it again from the backups. See, this is the See, this thing is smart. It's like, hey, you already selected a machine, the same machine from the infrastructure. You cannot get the same machine from the backups. So, and the rest option we already went through. So I'm gonna cancel this thing. So here's the deal. So we know we did the backup job and we did the copy jobs. And there's the other option is like I'm skipping this thing for a reason for now. So the other one is a VM copy job. So what VM copy job is, you click here, you add, you select whatever machine you want to. This time I can pick this machine, for example. Let's see. So I selected the Citrix PV provisioning server or one, and this is like 17. And here's the same thing, exclusion disk or whatever, you don't want to exclude it. I don't want to exclude anything. So you click next. So what it's going to do is like the same thing as the backup proxy, where like the backup proxy it's a role, and right now we have only one backup proxy, which is the server. And a recommendation is actually to have at least two backup proxies, because if one goes down, the second will kick in. So what basically the VMware backup proxy does, it takes the processing, it does all the processing power, processing. So it takes the load off of your backup server. That's the basically does it. And so and at the end, actually, your backup proxy, actually, here you go. Choose the backup proxy server for this job. For redundancy, we recommend it to select at least two proxies. When multiple proxies are available, selection will be performed on per VM basis, taking into account proxy connectivity and current load. So that's one of the reasons they ask you to have multiple proxies. So anyway, are gonna be the selection. And okay, default proxy created by Veeam, so we can select number 2. Actually, it doesn't matter. And so here's the enable application aware processing. So here's the deal, guys. If you are backing up a SQL Server, Exchange Server, Oracle Server, or a AD Active Directory server, if you do not enable this thing, then your application will not work. Application will not work mean if you need to restore a application level items, that will not be available. And again, I think we went through when we were doing it, like the application aware processing option. You can edit it. Requires successful processing. You can run the script if that's server or application needs like a scripting. Otherwise the VSS is gonna be good enough. And the transaction log. Choose whether this job should process transaction logs upon successful backup. Logs pruning is supported for Microsoft Exchange, SQL, and SQL Server, and Oracle. If you guys know anything about Exchange, SQL, or on Oracle, they create a tons of logs actually, and logs that keeps all the changes until the backup is done. Once the backup is done, logs get truncated. So, for example, the Exchange, it creates a log file every minute. So that's why it's extremely important when you're doing a backup for one of those servers, you can truncate the logs. And their benefit, we're going to talk about it. For example, in SQL, if you have a log truncation or log shipping done by Veeam, then like let's say you backing up a SQL server at 4 o'clock and then 5 o'clock. What happens if your server crashes at 4:30? So you can restore it to 4 o'clock, but what happened from 4 to 4:30 is 30 minutes. And what's going to happen with the transaction? So if you are backing up the transaction logs, then you can go any point in time, basically between 4 or 4:30. You can go and you can restore that server at 4:29, like a minute before it crashed. So um, So here, see the funny thing is one time you set up the credential and you don't have to set it up again. It's always going to be available. So right here, the guest interaction proxy. So we know the backup proxy, we know mount server, and we have a guest interaction proxy. So let's see, just the credentials, just like a backup software, we can check the same the VM copy one too. It might give you the orange. The orange one is because we don't have enough uh, space on repository. And it just kind of it just a warning. We had the same kind of warning when we were doing the backup job, and backup job was perfectly successful. But if you're doing if you're implementing this is okay because this is a test machine. We are just doing it's in our lab, but this is a production. We do not want to see this, the exclamation sign. So um, next, same thing. How do you want to run this job? Um, if you remember um, the copy job, I'm sorry, the backup job. So these settings are almost identical as the backup job. So if you want to know about this one, you can go to the I think the previous video, which is part 2, and we discuss all these options in part 2. And I can save this thing, but I'm gonna cancel it right now because um, you know, there's no point saving and running the job right now. When we're gonna go in detail, trust me, we have to go a lot deeper, and then we're gonna save these jobs. And by that time, I will have more. My repository gonna be big enough. So we did the backup job, we did the backup copy job, we did the VM. And this is the file copy job. What file copy job does it? So here's the file copy job. You click on the file copy job. It's going to ask you um, simply you can actually um, for a file, basically you can select on the folder. So right here we had a backup, right? The backup folders. And actually you can select this backup folder where we were doing the copy job or backup job. If you want to back up this thing at a different location, for example, so we can create a copy job and this copy job, like where you want to copy to. Unfortunately, we have only one server, so we cannot select it. But you know, um, see, these are same options here, like weekdays, periodically, hour, continuously. Same thing for the detail about a scheduling it. You guys can look at the part 2 of the video, and you can save it. So it's going to do the copy job. Um, I apologize for rushing this thing, is because there is a lot more to learn before we can actually go deeper into the mm, backup job, replication job, copy job, VM jobs, VM copy, and file copy. So here's the deal. Um, just to remember, because um, the question going to come, for example, for these options, like backup copy job is under what? Under backup infrastructure, under a storage infrastructure, or under backup and replication. So when you click on backup and replication, you should remember, like, okay, when we click on backup replication, we have the option on the ribbon on the top of the screen is a backup copy job. The you don't have to remember the actually which like which order, but you have to remember this thing. You have a replication job, you have a backup copy job, you have a VM copy, you have a file copy, you have a restore option, you have a the import backup. Um, we're going to talk about that one later, because you can import backup jobs, and this is the a failover plan. And these the failover plans, we're going to talk about it in not default, in details actually. And the failover plan probably going to take the entire video, and we're gonna actually we're gonna demonstrate that. Like I just give you the overall is like failover plans is like a pre-failover script, post-failover script, but you want to do it, and then you select the VM from infrastructure or from replica actually. So in case if your machine goes down for whatever reason, you create a plan, and you will see the fail replica will kick in automatically. Um, if you see here, it says add virtual machine to be failed over as a part of this plan. Use VM order and delay to ensure that all application dependencies are met. So, for example, if your an Exchange server and the domain controller fail for some reason, crashes, if you have a failover plan, you're gonna have those two machines either from the infrastructure. The infrastructure means is the backup infrastructure, or from replica. It will kick in automatically. And you can set the order, like which machine should, for example, in case of Exchange and Active Directory, always Active Directory is the one which has to come up first. So that's what they're talking about, the dependencies. So because Microsoft Exchange need the domain controller because it has the global catalog. So, and then you can save it. And right here, the option is to go up or down. And that was a failover plan. So we went through a backup job, not the replication job yet. You can do a replication actually from a. Okay, so we were talking about the replication job. So for what is the replication job? The replication job is, let's show you here. So you are running a virtual machine, for example, in your main site. Let's say you have a data center in East Coast, right? And you have a DR site on the West Coast. So what you want to do it, you want to create a replication job just in case of disaster. Um, So the DR, so basically they're asking you, hey, describe your DR site. Is this a low connection bandwidth, enable replica seeding? Low connection means it's terrible connection, and you need a replica seeding. Replica seeding means is a you will copy the data, and then you will copy the data manually from East Coast to West Coast, either by USB or by using third party um, to transport your data. Or you have a separate virtual network, enable network remapping. Basically, on the East Coast, you have a 10.10.10. IP scheme. On the West Coast is like 192.168.1.1. So that's what they're talking about if you have a separate virtual network. So it's going to enable the network mapping. And the third option is different IP addressing scheme, like the one I just mentioned it. Um, you have to re-IP from like 192.168 to 10.10.10.10. So So right here, say which virtual machine you want to replicate to. So I can choose, I can pick any machine from my infrastructure, for example. I can take this is the AD domain controller, for example, right? I'm going to say, hey, this is the domain controller I want to replicate. Uh, Again, if let's try one more. I take the second AD2. So I have a 2AD controller. So the reason I took two, so here I can actually show you that you can do, up or down by the priority. And source is the what you call it, you can do it from production storage, actual VM state, or you can do it from the from the backup files. So basically, um, this is also the question in exam, and also this is a very good, from knowledge perspective, is if you want to replicate a machine from New York to California, you have an option to replicate that machine straight from the infrastructure or from the backup, whichever you want. You know, so when you choose from production storage, this is the actual VM state basically, and this one is from backup files, the latest VM state available in the backup. This is a very tricky question and a tricky thing, and it asks you in the exam. For example, you set a replica job point A to point B, and your replica job is dependent on your backup copy, or dependent on the backup. So what basically they're asking for, if you wanted to replicate your machine from point A to point B, and if let's say you're point A to point B, you schedule it to do it like 4 hours basically, right? Hey, every 4 hours do it, and your backup is running every hour. So in between these two replica transfer, you're gonna have like four backups done, before your next replica start from point A to from New York to California. So how many replica jobs will run? So the answer is only one. Why one? Because right here it says the replicating from the backup file, where's the obtains the most recent VM state directly from the production storage, allow to replicate VM more often than you back them up. Or for example, it's like your replica job is set to run every hour, while your backup is running once a day. So your replica job, if it's picking up from the production, it's going to run much faster, as often as we want, versus if we point this thing to run from the backup files. If the backup is set to run once every day. So I know it's kind of a little confusing, but your replica job, if you okay, let's do like this. If your replica job is from the production storage, then it doesn't matter what the backup time is. You can set whatever frequency you want. But if you set your replica from the backup files, then your replica is dependent on your backup. So I'm just going to save here, and I'm going to click next. And now it's talking about the destination. So this is just not the simple backup. It is a replica actually. So when we're talking about replica and in VMware, hey, where it's going to go to? So we need to define the host or cluster. So in this case, for example, I can just choose it. Since I have 3 different hosts, I can just click on the other one. And see, here's the important thing to remember. So we are replicating to host or cluster. This is the IP address we chose. Resource pool. You can select the resource pool or take the default. So I'm just going to take the default. And this is the VM folder, or you can choose it. And this is your data store, or you can choose the data store wherever you're replicating to. And then when you click next, how are you gonna distinguish between your real machine? Let's say you have a machine called domain A, and when you're replicating it to a destination, if it says the same domain A, you will not know which one is original and which one is a replica. So that's why, by like Veeam, like many of the software, what they do, they actually change the suffix. See, right here it will end with underscore replica, and here the restore point to keep is 7 by default. The reason is normally replicas are used for disaster recovery. So you don't want to keep the point for a longer time, because otherwise it's not going to be helpful if you're doing a let's say your Exchange server as a replica, and if you're keeping the backup or restore points for for a month, then in case of disaster, you don't want to go back to a data which is 1 month old, because all of your emails gonna be gone. So, and if you need to retrieve it, that's why the Veeam says, hey, 3, 2, 1, 3 copies of data, 2 different medium, 1 offsite. So those 3 copies of media, you should have you should be able to retrieve your older email if you want to. So that's why it's important to remember, hey, your replica by default is for 7 days. I mean, I'm sorry, not for 7 days. Hey, I apologize. It's not 7 days. It's 7 points. Restore point 7. So basically, if you are backing up every hour, so your recovery going to be 7 hours only. And if you keep this points to like 1, so it's just the last one successful. So by default is 7. So if you're backing up every day, then it's 7 days basically. If you're backing up every hour, it's 7 hours. So these are the restore points, not the day. I apologize if I use that word on days. This is just the restore points. And let's click on advanced. In advanced, you can see it for replica. Exclude swap files, which is normal. Exclude deleted blocks, which is normal. And again, same thing is for optimal and is the storage optimization is LAN, and same for options. We talked about it, and we're gonna talk about it in detail. There is the reason you choose the WAN target or the local target or local target with 18 terabyte or LAN target. What happened is it chooses the default block size. Um, and the block size is different when you are doing a LAN target versus WAN target. So there is a ratio, and we're gonna actually go deeper on that one. So the options, the things to remember is just like a backup job. Hey, this is optimal LAN target notification. You can enable it. vSphere, you can enable the VMware tool, for instance, and same the change block. And you need to remember, like, hey, these options were not checked by default, and the change block tracking was checked by default. And it's easier to remember because all the job settings are same, you know. Um, Here is the one is the integration is the primary storage integration is enable backup from the storage snapshot. And again, we went over this option, I think, in video in part 2, and oh, part 3. No, part 2. I'm sorry. This is part 3. Um, yeah, same thing is if it fails for some reason, then you can fail over to standard backup. And this is also a question, actually. I don't know, it's a practice question or exam questions, or there is a question about it, like, hey, when you are backing up machines on VMware, and for some reason the CBT is not available, what will happen? Is your backup gonna fail, or is backup gonna switch to um, a standard backup? And because CBT is much faster, change block traction. So normally, hey, the backup not gonna fail, is gonna switch over, and it's just gonna take a longer time. So I'm gonna cancel this thing right here, and if you click next, let me take this options out. Same thing here is the source proxy and the target proxy. Again, proxies are very important. We talked about we're going to talk about in default, what is proxy basically, and the Veeam server, which you install all the software, becomes the default proxy actually. So, and again, that default proxy cannot handle all the loads, so that's why we need need more proxies. And in this case, we're gonna need a target proxy, and we're gonna need the source proxy, um, because we are replicating it. So, and again, it's a direct connection or WAN accelerator. And enable application, the word processing. Again, if you don't enable this thing, and if you have a SQL server or Exchange server, it will not give you the application level items. And here's the guest interaction proxy, and you can choose it. Basically, we have only one, so you can click on next, and you can same settings. You can save it, just like a backup job is going to retry failed job VM processing 3 times, and it's going to wait before each retry attempt for 10 minutes. And again, the important on word in automatic retry is the failed. Remember, if it's not failed, if it's ended with the warning, there is no retries. And also, if you run a manual job, there is no retry at all. Either it's going to be successful or it's not, because the manual job. And again, same thing as the terminate job. If it exceed allow backup windows. We talked about it in part 2. So I'm going to cancel this thing right here. Now I'm going to save it. So guys, here's the deal. We talked about the backup jobs, we talked about the replication job, we talked about the copy job, we talked about the VM jobs, we talked about file copy job. Um, you know, I am sure this video is to help you a little bit, you know, whatever your goal is, either to understand the product or you're working towards your certification. Um, this is this kind of supplement to whatever you guys are, working or, learning from. So basically, you have to, you have to get your concept clear 100% is what is backup job. Hey, it's just backing up the machine. What is replication job? Hey, you can replicate a machine either from the infrastructure, from the backup from one location to another one. What is backup copy? You can copy the backup from one location to another one. They give you so many different options. What is VM copy? So what's the difference between a replication job and the VM copy? And why you want to do the file copy? And what is the failover plan? And what all these things, all these options comes under? You know, hey, all these options comes under replication, backup, and replication. I know it's too much to remember, but that's why the Veeam test is not easy. And like I mentioned it on my, I don't know, earlier, backup is the lifeline, is the, for any company. You can have a disaster, you can have a ransomware attack, you can have a malicious, attempt. As long as you have a backup, you can get back in the business at any time. So, and what Veeam does it helps you achieve that level basically. And we're gonna see the option in Veeam where you can select those machines. You do a backup, and what will happen? Hey, you never tested the backup, and when the time came, you tried to fail over. Hey, the other machine didn't work either. So hey, what happened? So that's why Veeam has that option where you can manually power on those machines. It gives you the lab. You could do a short backup. Um, gives you a lot of different tools. Um, and also for backup infrastructure, this one is, what if you have a VMware and Hyper-V environment? What if you want to restore machine from VMware to Hyper-V? And these are other options, which we're going to talk about it. So under backup infrastructure, so we were talking about like a backup proxy, or like a backup servers. They are all part of the backup infrastructure. So right here you can see a backup proxies. You can add backup proxy. You can add a Hyper-V off host backup proxy. I know we didn't talk about it, but that's a huge topic. You can do a backup repository, which we did actually in the last video. A scale out repository, we didn't talk about it. Is like if you have a repository, for example, from 10 terabyte, hey, it's got full. Now what to do? So you can, Veeam give you the option to have a scale out repository, and the WAN accelerators, wide area network accelerator, when you're going to copy or replicate or whatever you want to, copy data from to wide area network. Then you have a service provider, is like a cloud provider, like you have a VMware, not the VMware. Yeah, VMware is also a cloud provider, and in some instances, but the major cloud providers, are the Amazon Web Services, AWS, and Microsoft Azure. They are the leaders actually. And this is the sure backup. Like you can create an application groups, you can create a virtual lab, where you can you can power on the machine, and test it real time, and you can set up the rules. So it will you can set up the rule like, hey, weekly set up your Exchange server, and power on the Exchange server and see if it's going to work or not. And then you're going to say, hey, oops, hey, we need Exchange server. So it's not going to work in an environment if it doesn't have the domain controller. So you can create a group basically, and then you can set it. Hey, the domain controller is going to power on from the backup, and then exchange, and you can run a several tests. So you can do it manually, or you can configure it, and sometimes you want to test the patching, for example, you can do it. Sometimes your developer want to have their own environment, just like production environment. So these are like the short backup or on demand options work. Right here you can see the managed servers. This is the VMware vCenter, the Microsoft. You can add server. You can add the vSphere. So these are a lot of options here. The virtual machines were what we saw earlier. Like, hey, you have a VMware machines running on vSphere. This is the Hyper-V running on this one. How you want to configure that one? Which server you want to add to? For Hyper-V. If you have a Hyper-V host, you can add it here. The storage infrastructure was like you can add a storage, you can take a snapshot, or you can store, you can do backup. So this one we're talking about not at the machine level. We're talking about on a storage site. And the thing is, if you can take the let's say you have 100 machines running in your environment, and if you want to take a backup of those 100 machines, it's not that easy, right? So, and if those machines are running off of one storage, and that storage does support, then you can take a snapshot of that storage and use that storage to back up the machine. And for Veeam backup and replication, integrate with EMC VNX, EMC VNX2, EMC VNXE, EMC Unity, HP 3-Power Store Serve, HP Virtual Store, left-hand P4000, HP Store Virtual VSA, IBM N Series, Nimble Storage, AF Series, and CS Series, NetApp FAS, NetApp FlexArray V Series, and NetApp Data on Tap. Edge VSA to ensure quick recovery of individual VMs, guest files, and application items from storage snapshot of VMware VMFS volume. To start using this functionality, register your storage by clicking this text and specifying the DNS name or IP address of the storage. So why did I read the whole entire thing? I mean, reading is too hard for me. But I read this thing, the entire thing, because in the exam they will ask you actually, hey, they will give you, they will throw the different name. Hey, they will give you like, for example, the left-hand P4000. They'll give you a P6000. Hey, is that supported? Is the 3-Power is supported? The EMC Unity is supported or not? Under EMC, which options are supported? Is it VNXE supported? Is 2 is supported? Or the VNX is supported? They will give you these names really, in different configurations. They will give you like 5 of these names, and out of 5, 3 are real and 2 are fake. And there are some new features actually in 9.5. So they will ask you about the VSA. They will ask you about IBM series. They will throw like, hey, M series. Hey, is the IBM M series is supported? The Nimble storage, for example, AF series and CS series, and the NetApp FAS, NetApp FlexArray V series, and NetApp VData. And you might be thinking, hey, why the heck do I need to remember these things? Remember, VM test is not easy, and VM product covers a lot of different the appliances. And as you can remember in my the part 1, we were talking about the Gartner report, where Veeam is on number 5th, right? But it's picking up very fast. The reason the Commvault is number 1, because Commvault support a lot of different devices, a lot of different scenarios. Not necessarily is a better software than Veeam, but they have a solution for everything. So for Veeam to be successful and be on the top, the Veeam is actually, uh, expanding their support for each scenario. So that makes it harder for to master the product. So right here, you have to remember, you must remember all these names. And the best way is you can watch this video. There is a lot of good information available on veeam.com on the product page, and a and do hands-on basically. I mean, it's gonna be hard for some person to have a hands-on experience on all these units, which is never gonna happen, trust me, unless you're a consultant. You providing professional services when you from jump from company to company, you set up the Veeam, you transfer the knowledge, and you move on. Yeah, in that case, and or also if you are a solution architect or pre-sales engineer, you need to know all these things for Veeam. The other thing is the under storage infrastructure is to take a snapshot, set up periodic storage level snapshot of your VMFS or NFS data store using storage management console. The storage will automatically snap your data stores, providing frequent store point and enable short RPOs. I'm pretty sure what the you guys know what the RPOs are, and everybody knows RPOs, the recovery point object, and it always goes with the recovery point object and recovery time object, RPO and RTOs. And the Veeam came up like, hey, RPTOs are RPTOs, and they actually patent this thing, RPTOs, the recovery point and time object. And the most common recovery scenario with little or no impact on your production environment. This is also a exam question right here. They say why this option is better. Basically, if like I mentioned, you have 100 machines and you need to take a backup. It's gonna do a lot of taxing, on your storage or on your environment. So if you take the snapshot of your storage at the storage level, boom, you're done. And same thing is for restore. To perform restore from a storage snapshot, browse to the desired snapshot on the store infrastructure tab. Select the VM you wanted to restore, and then you can restore the entire VM. Individual guest files, entire VM, guest file, or individual Microsoft Active Directory, Microsoft Exchange, Microsoft SharePoint, SQL Server, and Oracle item. So what are they saying here? They say if you use the storage snapshot, you can browse to all these things. Remember, storage snapshot is there even without Veeam, right? Because that's not the Veeam what you call the feature. That's the feature of the storage. Um, but without the Veeam, you cannot retrieve all these items. That's why when Veeam integrate with these supported the platform, it makes life much easier. Whose life makes much easier is from the IT guy, basically. From a operational backup perspective and a DR um, um, data recovery, or disaster recovery perspective. And instead of, if somebody say, hey, I'm missing a file, and you say, okay, I'm going to restore the whole machine, and I'm going to try to get to your particular file, either it could be the exchange, your email item, one email or one attachment in the email, or you can use these options to make your life easier. And remember, I always say, if you see an IT guy working pretty hard all day long, he's not doing his job. If he's sitting drinking coffee, enjoying, then he's doing the good job because everything is working fine. So that's the objective is here, like, to make your life easier, make your company's life easier. So that was a restore, and here's the backup. And we didn't talk about yet about the Veeam the edition. We're gonna talk about it, Veeam edition, because all these features you see right now, they are we downloaded 30 days trial, so all these options are unlocked, and actually in real life is how much you pay, you're gonna get those options, or sometimes you're gonna get those options with a limited functionality. So in a Enterprise Plus edition, so Enterprise Plus edition is the top one. Additionally enable VMware backup to perform directly from a storage snapshot. This functionality puts your primary storage capability to work, allowing for improved recovery point objective, which is RPOs, uh, while greatly reducing impact from backup activities on the production VM. Again, back to the same, like if you have 1,000 machines and you're backing up those 1,000 machines, it's gonna impact on your production, because every time the machine gonna get backed up, it's gonna take a, it's gonna get freeze, take a snapshot either by VSS or by VM tools, and then those, the backup gonna be transported to your repository. So there is a lot of things actually right here, but it's not that. Once you get into it, it's not that difficult. So I'm gonna clear this thing all. And then we go to a tape infrastructure, and believe me or not, there are a lot of companies still using a tape backup. So they can add it to the tape. And there are a lot of questions about this thing. A lot of questions means um, they may ask you for 3 to 4 questions just on the tape side. As your luck, because I don't know all of their questions, but there are a lot of practice questions, and there are a lot of the online resources available. But for to pass the test, you need to know about the tape infrastructure. In tape infrastructure, you can see you can add the tape server. Actually, you know what? We're going to talk about this thing in the next video. So I'm going to leave this thing here because it's over an hour. And like I said, we're going to create a multiple videos. So this is going to be this is the part 3. Hey, if you like this video, please do subscribe to my channel.